days.
60 days, that's it.
We meet all year round.
I know. In New York State, you meet all year round. But in the state of Hawaii, they would get together the first part of January, and they would run January, February, come March, and go home. Okay, it was that kind of situation. And
this is hard to believe, Doug. I mean, in a state such as ours, where we have this incredible, massive government.
State of Florida is about the same size as the state of New York.
Yeah.
Population-wise. Okay. They're both kind of tied for either third place or fourth place. I don't know. They think Florida may come into third place this year. The state government, the legislature in Florida only meets in March, April, and May. They go home.
That's it?
That's it.
They do the whole governing in
whole state
90 days?
It's not even 90 days, 60 days.
60 days?
60 days. So they only meet for 60 days.
They don't have to pay them all year?
No. So the people who serve in the state legislature in Florida are people who have other occupations, okay?
Oh, kind of like it first happened when our country was setting up.
For example, in Florida, Charlotte County, our local state senator, he's also a mortician, and he runs a mortician services. And I guess he runs up to Tallahassee for 60 days, and he's in the state senate and that type of thing. So you have a very limited state government. In terms of the coming also into Florida, coming into the county level, we have again the 5 county commissioners. These are full-time jobs, but they manage the entire county of 160,000 people.
5. You know, we need 25, and we have less than 160,000.
But the point being,
in other words, we need to show examples to our politicians, and perhaps maybe they'll get the picture.
Oh no, they have the picture. They're not about to change. They want to keep their position.
But this is where something.
His job would go on the shopping bag.
But this is something where the actual people who are living in these areas, the people who live here in this county, most of the people, probably from my understanding, who live currently in Chautauqua County, grew up here. And in many cases, their parents were here and their grandparents were here. And this was kind of the tradition. But perhaps the time has come to take a look at the tradition. In other words, coming into the...
I know there's been a couple votes on whether we should downsize size, and it hasn't been very successful. But of course, the people that are taking the vote are the people that some of whom would be gone. So I can understand them not wanting to vote themselves out of their job.
Doug, along with what you're saying here, one advantage we do have is everybody is an elected official in this county, just about.
Has some kind of a position.
Yeah.
Everybody has
and we're not about to give that up. Somehow I didn't get elected to anything.
You didn't get elected to anything?
No.
Okay, you'll have to run for something.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, caller. Send me a stamped envelope. I'll give you 2 $5 gift certificates to the Lakeview or the docks down at the foot of the hill in Mayville with a salad bar that never ends.
Well, I certainly will, and I'm very interested in what your guest has to say.
Okay, well, I'll shut up then.
I'll be looking up his books to see if they're available at the library, which I'm sure they are.
I want to hear about the, I'd love to hear about the teepee and the walnut tree. We'll have to wait that for another time.
Another time. Right.
Thank you, bye.
Okay.
Thank you, caller. Doug, we're kind of running down on time here. We only have about 10 minutes left. So I want you just to talk briefly about what you think we can do about all this, if anything, or what should happen here.
Well, as I said earlier, you need to start probably with a number of school districts that they have in the county. That's probably the easiest place to start, and also would be most beneficial. Be beneficial not only to the taxpayers and the residents of the county, but to the students, the kids who are going to school at this point.
Well, I'll tell you something interesting. Right here in Westfield, down below, the school superintendent was strongly urging a consolidation, and they fired him. He's gone. So much for that.
But the consolidation business in, say, the schools is a very difficult thing to actually get involved with.
Yeah.
When I was working in Franklinville, this is back 20, 30 years ago, actually, at this point. We talked about consolidation of the Franklinville, Ellicottville, and West Valley system, okay? These were three small systems. At this point, I would expect that probably Franklinville has maybe 800 or 900 students, K through 12, Ellicottville probably about the same, West Valley about 300 or 400 students. And we put together a whole plan. This was in the 1970s, and simply it did not go through because a lot of people were kind of clinging to the idea of, I am from Franklinville, and we played Ellicottville baseball or basketball 25 years ago, and this is the bad thing that occurred. And a lot of that stuff is still taking place.
Well, it's still going on today.
Still going on today. But moving from the Franklinville system of about 1,000 students at that time to the Albion system, we were able to provide it. We had 3,000 students, kindergarten through 12th grade, and we were able to provide a much better program at a much lower individual cost than what was possible when I was actually in Franklinville. You will find that in Chautauqua County these days that we have school superintendents, I'm certain, and actually school board members who will look at the need, the necessity for the consolidation of school systems. But when it comes to time to put it up for a vote, then something falls through, emotions kind of come into being at that time, and not much seems to happen. Actually, the consolidation of schools is actually the place to start. And if the state has now made it possible for Chautauqua County, Cattaraugus County to explore the option of a regional high school, this would be a big step in the right direction. And in the county this size, about 20-some thousand students, you could probably get away with having, say, 3 or 4 regional high schools located within this county. And this would provide probably some flexibility of dealing with a lot of the individual ideas, emotions, feelings that have taken place over the years.
Of course, you have to convince the school boards to give it up.
Well, I think you probably would have better luck talking to the school board members than you do at this point to many of the people living in the communities. But somehow this information has to get out, has to be made available. Also, after you get dealing with the school consolidation business situation, then you could move on and start talking about, do we really need to have all of these individual separate village governments? Because in many cases, the township is already duplicating, the town is already duplicating the services that are being provided by the village. And rather than having 2 sets of government and the issues and problems occurring between the two and the need for joint meetings to consolidate things, simply go to actually going back to the town governments. And then the town governments here could probably function more similar to the town governments in the New England area, where many of the local decisions are actually made by a very active constituency within that actual town. This would all help, but I think would make it possible to reduce a lot of the overlapping regulation, make it possible to reduce a lot of the multiplicity of tax billing, and make probably a much better environment for businesses, industries to come into the area and to establish themselves into the area and to build the area economically. So that's kind of the two points of view we go after.
I will echo that. John D'Agostino, who is the publisher of the Dunkirk Observer, I did read a few of his notes. That was one of the things he had said, and he said, at this point, we cannot compete.
No.
We cannot. Chautauqua County is dead financially in terms of new businesses coming in, according to this article, and according to an awful lot of other people, because of these overlapping governments, government after government after government, right on the county level where they've got all these people.
But there was a story, I think, a couple days ago, also in the Observer, talking about a new business coming into the Dunkirk area. The people running the business had to deal with the city of Dunkirk, the town of Dunkirk, the county, also had to deal, I think, with neighboring towns that were next door, and they spent actual weeks trying to deal with this multiplicity of governments before they actually decided to actually come into Dunkirk and establish themselves in Dunkirk. This is just another example of what is involved. People coming into Florida, You simply have to deal with the county government. That's it. And the county government, who's on the county government? 5 people. It's a lot easier to deal with 5 people than it is with 25 people who don't like each other, type of thing.
And do not like the town government.
That's right.
And do not like the village government, or they don't like each other.
You get all of this conflicting jurisdiction of who is involved, who makes this decision, how they interact with each other, and eventually the guy who runs the business is going to say, forget it. I can go south, and then go south, and I only have to deal with maybe one government. And as far as when I was in the state of Hawaii, the only thing you had to deal with there was the state government. Okay.
That's such a difference, really. And this does make a difference to businesses we're trying to bring to our county. Yeah. Not to mention, Doug, the incredible taxes and regulations and rules and so forth of the state government on top of all this.
Well, that's because you have the year-round state government. They have to have some reason to be in session the year-round, don't
Pass regulations.
That's right.
And tax.
And but again, from what I read in Albany, they spend a lot of time disagreeing with each other, too.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we don't even know, we didn't for a long time even know who was running the state government. Yeah. The Senate had 2 leaders, really.
Yeah.
Or no leader.
At any rate, as I say, a lot of my Republican friends, they tell me, we are standing for limited government, little government. But I take a look at where they're living and I say, oh my gosh, this is the most highly governed place in the whole United States.
You know, and the Republican Party started here.
Yeah, maybe that's the legacy, I don't know.
Okay, Doug Hoke, who is a well-read and published a number of books, at least 6 now, right?
6 books, 7 coming out in October.
He's been a superintendent of schools. He's been in government. He knows his stuff around here. Last minute or so is yours to close up.
Closing up, like I say, I grew up in Chautauqua County. My parents were here, and grandparents were here, and great-grandparents were here, and great-great-grandparents came to Chautauqua County. So I have a house here in Westfield, and I spend a number of weeks here a year. I'm still working in Florida. I expect the time may come where I'll be spending more time back here. But it's interesting making the comparison. I've had the good fortune of living and working in New York State, living and working in the state of Maine, living and working in the state of Hawaii, and now I'm living and working in Florida. And as you go from state to state, place to place, you see the differences. And the one thing that I keep coming back to here, especially as I get my periodic tax bills, which come at various times during the year here, I sometimes wonder, the question is, how come we have all of these different levels of government? And, how come they're all kind of surviving, sometimes competing with each other, occasionally working with each other, but it's sort of an ongoing drama. I guess it's a little bit like reality TV or something.
Well, you're living and working to improve Chautauqua County, and I thank you for giving us a little bit of insight. We already have this coming in now. They're trying to consolidate the legislation. The Observer just hit a big editorial on this, and apparently nobody's really listening, I guess. Let's hope maybe somebody else picks up. And I asked the chairman of the county legislature, why are we the highest taxed county in these United States? He wasn't quite sure. But maybe we should try to find out and do something about it.
Good idea.
Doug Hoke, thank you very much, Doug, for giving us your insight. And I want to thank all those special people out there. Sorry, caller, we haven't got time at this point, but we'll catch you next time. I want to thank Chuck Kelsey, Devin Taylor, Chris Bird, Randy Bird, Chris Ramaker, Jeff Zook, Don Zenz, John Hamels, and occasionally Dan Berg. May all that is proud and true and noble abide with you. I'm Reed Powers.